The drill broke through the rock, and Kang Taeho felt the ground shake beneath his feet. He stepped back from the edge of the hole and watched as dust rose into the cold mountain air. They had been digging for 3 months under Mount Baekdu, following strange energy readings that no one could explain. Taeho was 34 years old. He had been a soldier once, fighting in small wars on distant planets where humans were always the weaker side. Now he searched for old things buried in the earth. It was quieter work, but today something told him that quiet was about to end. "The readings are getting stronger," said Yunhana. She stood beside him, holding a scanner that blinked with yellow light. She was a scientist who studied alien life. But she had never seen readings like these. "Whatever is down there, it is very old. Maybe older than anything we have ever found." Taeho nodded and looked up at the gray sky. The year was 2847. Humanity had spread to 3 star systems, built cities on dozens of worlds, and created ships that could cross the darkness between stars. But none of that mattered much. In a galaxy filled with ancient empires, humans were still the youngest and the weakest. The Valith hegemony ruled everything. 6 elder races had joined together thousands of years ago to control all the others. They allowed humans to exist because humans were useful. They worked hard. They followed orders. They did not cause trouble. But Taeho had always felt that this arrangement would not last forever. "Send the drone down," he said. The small flying machine dropped into the hole and disappeared into darkness. Its camera showed nothing but rock walls for a long time. Then, the walls changed. They became smooth, carved with symbols that looked both alien and strangely familiar. "Stop," Hana whispered. "Go back. Look at those markings." Taeho leaned closer to the screen. The symbols showed figures that looked human. They were bowing before something large, something powerful. And they were old. Very old. The drone continued down and finally entered a massive chamber. Taeho's breath caught in his throat. In the center of the chamber stood a platform made of crystal. And on that platform lay a figure. It was humanoid. It looked like a man, but larger, more perfect in form. Its skin was pale gray, and it was covered in the same crystal that made up its bed. Its eyes were closed. Its chest did not move. But somehow Taeho knew it was not dead. "What is that?" one of the workers asked. No one answered. Taeho made a call to Earth. Within 2 days, an old man arrived at the dig site. His name was Park Sun-ho, and he was 83 years old. He had spent his entire life studying forbidden legends, stories that most historians said were just myths. Sun-ho looked at the images from the drone and his hands began to shake. "I never thought I would see this," he said. "I always believed, but I never thought I would actually see it." "What is it?" Taeho asked. Sun-ho sat down heavily on a metal chair. "There are stories," he said. "Very old stories. They say that long ago, before humans built cities, before we even had writing, something terrible came to Earth. A darkness that wanted to consume all life. The stories say that Earth itself created a defender, a guardian, a being made from the planet's own will to survive." Hana shook her head. "That is impossible. Planets do not have consciousness." "Maybe not," Sun-ho replied. "Or maybe we do not understand what consciousness truly is. The stories say the Guardian defeated the darkness and then went to sleep. It would wait until it was needed again. 3 days later, they opened the chamber and walked inside." Hana ran her scanners over the sleeping figure, and what she found made her sit down on the cold stone floor. "The DNA," she said, her voice shaking. "It is human. Completely human. But it is also different. It is like someone took human genetics and made them perfect, removed every flaw, increased every strength. This being is what humanity could become if we evolved for 1,000,000 more years. Those not. The Lan is what be." Taeho stood before the crystal platform and looked at the Guardian's face. It was peaceful, almost kind. He wondered what it had seen, what it had done, what dreams it might have during its long sleep. He never got to wonder for long. The first explosion came from the sky, then another, then 100 more. Tejo ran outside and saw fire falling from the heavens. Ships filled the sky above the mountain. But they were not human ships. They were vessels of the Valith hegemony, and they were firing on the planet. His communication device screamed with emergency signals. Every channel carried the same terrible message. The hegemony had decided that humanity had grown too large. There were too many humans. They were spreading too fast. They might become a threat one day, and so the elder races had decided to end them. Tejo watched a city burn in the distance. Seoul, where his sister lived, gone in a flash of light. Hana grabbed his arm. "We have to get underground. We have to hide." But Tejo could not move. He could only watch as everything his species had built began to die. Then the ground shook. Not from bombs this time, from below. They ran back to the chamber and found the crystal cracking. The Guardian's fingers twitched. Its chest rose and fell. After thousands of years of sleep, it was waking up. Sunho fell to his knees. "It knows," he said. "It knows. Earth is in danger. It can feel its children dying." The crystal shattered. The Guardian opened its eyes. They were dark, like the space between stars, but filled with points of light. He sat up slowly and looked at the 3 humans before him. He did not speak, but Tejo felt something touch his mind. An understanding, a promise. The Guardian stood. He was nearly 3 meters tall. He walked past them without a word and climbed up through the tunnel they had made. Tejo and the others followed. When they reached the surface, a Valith landing ship was descending toward them. Soldiers in heavy armor jumped out, their weapons raised. The Guardian did not slow down. He walked toward them with steady steps. The soldiers fired. Beams of hot plasma struck his body and disappeared, absorbed like water into sand. He reached the first soldier and moved his hand. Just a simple movement. The soldier flew backward and did not get up again. The others fired more desperately. The Guardian moved through them like wind through grass. In less than a minute, they were all down. He looked up at the warships above. One of them began to descend, preparing to fire its main cannon directly at him. The Guardian raised his hand toward the sky. Tejo would never forget what happened next. The warship stopped. Then it began to shake. Then it fell from the sky and crashed into the mountainside, a broken ruin of metal and fire. Hana grabbed Tejo's shoulder. "What is he?" Sunho answered, tears running down his old face. "He is the reason we survived. He is the reason we will survive again. He is Earth's answer to those who would hurt its children." The Guardian turned and looked at them, and for the first time, he spoke. His voice was deep, old, and filled with something that might have been sadness. "They will learn," he said. "They will learn why the stars once feared this small blue world." Then he began to walk toward the burning cities, and the sky itself seemed to grow dark with his anger. The Guardian walked through fire and ruin. Tejo followed at a distance, unable to look away. Beside him, Hana recorded everything with shaking hands, and old Sunho whispered prayers to gods he had studied but never truly believed in until now. Above them, the Valith fleet continued its attack. Bombs fell on cities across the planet. Millions were dying. The screams came through every communication channel, a chorus of terror and despair that seemed to fill the whole world. But the Guardian did not hurry. He walked with slow, steady steps toward the largest Valith warship hovering above the mountains. It was a destroyer, nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could turn a city to ash in seconds. A beam of light shot down from the ship and struck the Guardian directly. The energy was enough to melt stone, enough to destroy anything made by human hands. But when the light faded, he still stood there, untouched, his dark eyes fixed on the ship above. Then he jumped. Taeho had seen soldiers with enhanced bodies leap 20 meters. He had seen machines launch themselves into the sky, but nothing prepared him for what he witnessed. The Guardian rose from the ground like gravity had forgotten him. He flew upward, faster and faster, until he was just a dark spot against the gray metal of the destroyer. He landed on its hull and began to walk. Behind him, the metal tore open as if made of paper. Systems failed. Engines died. The great ship began to fall from the sky, and the Guardian rode it down like a man standing on a leaf floating in a river. The destroyer crashed into an empty valley. The Guardian stepped off its broken hull and looked up at the remaining ships. Admiral Cho Dongwoo watched from the bridge of his command vessel, the last major ship in Earth's defense fleet. He was 60 years old and had spent his life preparing for battles he never wanted to fight. Now he watched his sensors with wide eyes. "What am I looking at?" he asked. His tactical officer shook her head. "I do not know, sir. The figure appears to be human, but that is impossible. No human can do what we are seeing." Another Valeth ship fell from the sky. Then another. The Guardian moved between them with impossible speed, tearing through shields and armor as if they were nothing. Some ships tried to flee. They did not get far. In 17 minutes, it was over. The entire Valeth attack fleet, 47 warships, lay scattered across the Korean peninsula in smoking ruins. The Guardian stood alone in a field of wreckage. He did not look tired. He did not look satisfied. He looked like someone who had just completed a small task before beginning a much larger one. Taeho and Hana found him there as the sun began to set. Emergency vehicles rushed past them toward the destroyed cities. The cries of survivors filled the air. Earth was wounded, badly wounded, but it was still alive. The Guardian turned to face them. In the fading light, Taeho could see his features more clearly. He looked like a man in his middle years, strong and calm, but his eyes held something ancient, something that had seen things no living human could imagine. "Can you understand me?" Taeho asked. The Guardian nodded slowly. "What do we call you?" The Guardian was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice like stones grinding together. "The old ones called me Jian. It means sword. I was the sword of this world." Hana stepped forward. "How is this possible? How can you exist?" "How?" Jian looked at her with something like curiosity. "Your science has limits. There are forces in this universe that your instruments cannot measure. Earth is alive, not as you understand life, but alive in its own way. When its children faced destruction, it created me to protect them." "The darkness," Sunho said. He had finally caught up with them, breathing heavily. "The old stories speak of a darkness that came to Earth long ago." Jian's expression changed. For the first time, something like emotion crossed his face. It was not anger or fear. It was something deeper, something like sorrow. "The hollow," he said. "That is what I called it. It is a thing that exists between worlds, between dimensions. It feeds on consciousness, on souls, if you prefer that word. It came to Earth when your ancestors were still learning to use fire. I stopped it. I drove it away. But I did not destroy it. I could not destroy it." "Where is it now?" Taeho asked. Jian raised his hand and pointed toward the stars. "Everywhere. It has been feeding for thousands of years. Every species that disappeared, every civilization that fell silent, every empire that crumbled into dust. The hollow was there, hidden in the shadows, guiding events toward consumption." Hana's face went pale. "The Valeth hegemony. Are you saying that the hollow controls them?" "The leaders of the hegemony are not alive," Jian replied. "They died long ago. What sits on their thrones are puppets, empty vessels animated by fragments of the hollow. The elder races believe they rule the galaxy. In truth, they are slaves preparing other species for harvest." The weight of his words settled over them like a heavy blanket. Everything humanity had believed about the galaxy was wrong. They were not servants of a powerful empire. They were cattle, being prepared for slaughter. Why attack Earth now? Teho asked. Why try to destroy us? Because you are growing, Jian said. You spread faster than any species the Hollow has seen. You adapt. You survive. You refuse to submit completely. The Hollow has learned to be patient. But your kind makes it nervous. It remembers what I did to it. It fears that your species might produce another like me. Admiral Dongwu's ship landed nearby. The old officer walked toward them with a squad of soldiers, but he stopped when he saw Jian. For a long moment, he simply stared. I saw what you did, Dongwu said finally. You saved us. I saved you from the first attack. Jian replied. There will be more. The Hollow will not stop until humanity is gone, or until I end it once and for all. Can you do that? Dongwu asked. Can you end it? Jian looked up at the night sky. Stars were beginning to appear, cold points of light in an infinite darkness. When I fought it before, I was young. I did not understand what it truly was. Now, I have slept for thousands of years, and in my sleep, I learned. I felt the universe move around me. I heard the dying screams of countless species. I know what I must do. He turned back to face them. But I cannot do it alone. I am strong, but the Hollow is vast. It has spread across the galaxy like a disease. To cut it out, I will need help. I will need ships. I will need witnesses. Witnesses? Hana asked. The species of this galaxy have been enslaved for so long that they have forgotten what freedom means. They need to see the truth. They need to see the Hollow exposed. And they need to see that resistance is possible. He looked at Teho. They need to see humans standing against the darkness. Teho felt something stir in his chest. He had spent his whole life feeling small, feeling weak, feeling like humanity was just a tiny flame in a vast cold universe. But looking at Jian, he felt something different. He felt hope. I will go with you, Teho said. Hana nodded. So will I. Dongwu straightened his uniform. My fleet is damaged, but we can provide a ship. And if you are going to fight the masters of the galaxy, you will need Earth's support. Jian smiled then. It was a small smile, barely visible, but it changed his whole face. For a moment, he did not look like an ancient weapon. He looked like a man. Then we begin, he said. The Hollow has had 10,000 years to build its power. We will tear it down piece by piece. We will show every enslaved species what courage looks like. And when the darkness finally faces us in the end, it will learn why it was right to fear Earth. He began walking toward the landing zone where Dongwu's ship waited. The stars above seemed to grow brighter, as if they were watching, as if they were waiting, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, something ancient and terrible felt a sensation it had not experienced in a very long time. It felt afraid. The ship was called the Sunrise. It was not a warship, just a fast scout vessel that could slip between star systems without being noticed. Admiral Dongwu had given them his best crew and his best pilot, a young woman named Li Mireille. Mireille was 26 years old. She had joined the fleet because she wanted to see the stars. She had not expected to be flying a ship carrying an ancient weapon toward the heart of enemy territory. Jian stood at the front of the bridge, staring out at the stars as they streaked past. He had not eaten since his awakening. He had not slept. He simply stood there, watching, waiting. Teho walked up beside him. How do you know where to go? Crew. I can feel it, Jian replied. The Hollow leaves traces wherever it goes, like footprints in snow. I have been tracking it since before your species had names. Their first destination was a planet called Verath, a world at the edge of hegemony space. It was home to a species called the Marathi, tall beings with 4 arms and skin like polished stone. They had served the hegemony for 3,000 years. When the Sunrise landed, Jian walked down the ramp, alone. The local authorities came to meet him with weapons drawn. They did not know what he was, but they knew he was not supposed to be there. Jian did not fight them. Instead, he looked at the leader, an old Morathi with scars covering his face, and spoke a single word in a language that had not been heard in 10,000 years. The old Morathi dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. "How do you know that word?" he whispered. "That word has been forbidden for generations." "Because I was there when your ancestors first spoke it," Jian said. "I was there when your people were free, before the darkness came, before your leaders sold your souls for the promise of safety." He raised his hand and pointed toward the government building in the center of the city. "Your rulers are not alive. They have not been alive for centuries. They are puppets, controlled by something that feeds on your kind. If you do not believe me, come with me. I will show you." The march to the government building drew crowds. Word spread faster than they could walk. An alien creature claiming to be ancient had landed and was making impossible claims. Some came to watch him fail. Others came hoping he would succeed. The doors of the building were sealed, but Jian walked through them as if they were made of mist. Inside, the guards tried to stop him. They lasted about as long as the guards on Earth. The ruling council of Verath sat in a grand chamber at the top of the building. 7 figures in expensive robes, their faces hidden behind masks of gold. They had ruled this world for longer than anyone could remember. Jian walked into the chamber and stopped. Taeho and Hana followed behind him, recording everything. "Remove your masks," Jian said. The council did not move. Jian raised his hand, and the masks flew from their faces. What lay beneath made Hana scream. There were no faces. Just darkness. Writhing. Living darkness that spilled out like smoke and tried to form shapes. The creatures wearing the bodies of the council shrieked in voices that hurt to hear. "See what rules you," Jian said to the crowds watching through the open doors. "See what has been feeding on your people for 3,000 years. He stepped forward and touched the nearest council member. Light erupted from his hand, pure and bright, and the darkness inside the body burned away. What remained was nothing but old bones and dust. One by one, he destroyed them all. When it was done, the chamber was silent. The people of Verath stared at the remains of their leaders with faces that showed horror, confusion, and something else. Something that looked like the first spark of anger. "You are free now," Jian told them. They returned to the ship and left before the chaos truly began. Behind them, the planet erupted into riots, uprisings, and civil war. Centuries of order collapsed in hours. Mireille watched the planet shrink behind them with a troubled expression. "Was that the right thing to do?" "What do you mean?" Taeho asked. "People are dying down there. The system is falling apart. Maybe it was better when they did not know the truth." Hana shook her head. "They were slaves. Slaves being slowly consumed by a monster they could not even see. Now they have a chance. But how many will die before they find peace?" Jian spoke without turning around. "Freedom has a price. It always has. Those people were already dying. Just slowly, invisibly. Now, they have a choice. Some will choose poorly. Some will choose well. But at least now, they can choose." Mireille did not argue. But she did not look convinced either. They visited 12 more worlds over the following weeks. Each time, the pattern was the same. Jian would expose the hidden puppets, controlling the local governments. He would burn away the darkness and leave the people to decide their own future. The galaxy began to change. News spread despite the hegemony's attempts to stop it. Species that had been quiet for centuries began to ask questions. Some worlds fell into chaos. Others organized rebellions. A few tried to contact Earth, seeking alliance with the species that had somehow produced this incredible being. The Hollow noticed. On a world called Thenris, They walked into a trap. The local rulers knew they were coming and had prepared, not with soldiers or weapons, but with something worse. When Jian entered the council chamber, he found it empty except for a single figure. It looked like a child, small and fragile, with dark hair and sad eyes. But it was not a child. "Hello, Jian," the figure said in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "It has been a long time." Jian stopped. For the first time since his awakening, he looked uncertain. "You are showing yourself," he said. "Only a small piece." The hollow replied through the child's mouth. "Most of me is still spread across the stars, but I wanted to speak with you, to offer you a deal. There is nothing you can offer me. Are you sure?" The child smiled, and the expression was wrong, too wide, too empty. "I have consumed 10,000 species since you last faced me. I have knowledge you cannot imagine, and I know what you are hiding." Jian's hands clenched into fists. "You are dying," the hollow continued. "You were made for one battle, one moment of glory. Every second you exist now is borrowed time. Your body is breaking down. In a few months, maybe less, you will simply stop." Taeho felt his heart freeze. He looked at Jian's back and suddenly noticed things he had missed before. The slight trembling in his hands. The moments of stillness that lasted too long. The way he sometimes seemed to be looking at something far away. "I can fix that," the hollow said. "Join me. Become part of me. I will give you eternity. You will never die, never fade. You can protect your precious humans forever." Jian was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a bitter sound, full of pain and something like joy. "You still do not understand," he said. "You have existed for millions of years and you still do not understand what makes us strong. I was never meant to live forever. I was meant to give my people a chance. That is all any of us can do. We burn bright for a moment, and then we are gone. But what we leave behind endures." He raised his hand toward the child-shaped darkness. "I reject your offer, and I will find you. Every piece of you, scattered across every star. I will burn you all." The child's face twisted with rage. "Then, you will die alone, watching everything you love be consumed." "Maybe," Jian said. "But they will remember me. That is more than anyone will ever say about you." Light exploded from his palm, and the fragment of the hollow screamed as it burned. When the light faded, the child was gone. Only ash remained. Jian turned to face his companions. His eyes were tired now, and Taeho could see the truth in them. "You knew," Taeho said. "You knew you were dying." "Yes. Why did you not tell us?" Jian smiled, and for a moment he looked almost human. "Because it does not matter. We all die. What matters is what we do before the end." He walked past them toward the door. "Now come. We still have work to do, and my time grows short." The hollow had a name for its home. It called it the Grief of Suns. It was a dead nebula at the edge of the galaxy, a place where stars had once burned, but now only cold gas and dust remained. Ships that entered never returned. Entire fleets had been lost in that darkness over thousands of years. This was where the hollow kept its true form. Not the fragments scattered across 1,000 worlds, but the core of its being. The vast, hungry consciousness that had consumed more species than history could remember. Hana had spent weeks studying Jian's body, trying to find a way to slow his decay. What she found only confirmed the hollow's words. He was breaking down at a cellular level. His body had not been designed to last. It was a weapon meant to be used once, and then discarded. "I cannot stop it," she told Taeho one night as they sat alone in the ship's small common room. "His cells are burning themselves out. The energy he contains is too much for any physical form to hold." "How long does he have?" "Weeks, maybe. Less if he keeps using his powers." Taeho stared at his hands. He had known soldiers who died in battle. He had seen brave men and women give their lives for causes they believed in. But this was different. Jian was not just a man. He was hope made flesh, the only thing standing between humanity and a darkness that had swallowed civilizations. He knows, Hana said quietly. He has known since he woke up, and he does not care. How can he not care? Because he is not fighting to live. He is fighting so that we can. The door opened, and Mireille walked in. Her face was pale. "We have a message," she said. "From the hollow." They gathered on the bridge. The message played on the main screen, and the voice that spoke was everywhere and nowhere, ancient and terrible. "I have been patient," the hollow said. "I have allowed you to play your little game, freeing worlds, spreading hope. It was amusing to watch. But now I grow tired of waiting. Come to me, Jian. Come to the grief of sons. Let us end this, as we should have ended it 10,000 years ago." The message ended. Jian stood motionless, his dark eyes fixed on the empty screen. "It is a trap," Mireille said. "Yes," Jian agreed. "That is exactly what it wants. Then we should not go. We must." Jian turned to face them. The hollow is pulling back. It is gathering all its fragments, concentrating its power. If we do not face it now, it will become too strong. It will sweep across the galaxy like a wave, and nothing will survive. "Then let me call for reinforcements," Taeho said. "Admiral Dongwu has been rebuilding the fleet. The species we freed are forming alliances. We do not have to do this alone." "Well, we do not have to do this." Jian was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Very well, call them, let them come. But understand this, when we enter that place, most of us will not return. We are walking into the mouth of death itself." "We understand," Taeho said. 2 weeks later, the largest fleet in galactic history gathered at the edge of the grief of suns. Admiral Dongwu had brought everything Earth had left. 37 warships, rebuilt and reinforced. Beside them flew vessels from a dozen liberated species, Morathi cruisers with their distinctive angular shapes, Fenris carriers loaded with fighter craft, ships from worlds whose names humans could not even pronounce. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough. But they had come anyway. Dongwu stood on the bridge of his flagship, the New Dawn, and looked out at the gathered fleet. His old face was calm. "We are about to fight something that has destroyed empires," he said to his crew. "We are probably going to die. But I want you to know something. I have spent my entire career serving in the shadow of species that looked down on us. Today, we lead. Today, humans stand at the front of a free alliance. Whatever happens next, that means something." The fleet entered the nebula. At first, there was only darkness. Cold gas swirled around them, blocking sensors and communications. Ships had to stay close together to avoid losing each other in the void. Then the attacks began. Creatures made of living shadow emerged from the gas clouds. They were pieces of the hollow, given physical form. Thousands of them, millions of them, swarming like insects. They attached themselves to ships and began to feed, draining energy, draining life. The fleet fought back. Plasma cannons lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked through the void. Ships died in flashes of light. But the Alliance pushed forward. Jian stood at the front of the sunrise, guiding them through the chaos. He seemed to know where every threat was before it appeared. He pointed, and Mireille flew. Behind them, the fleet followed. "There," Jian said suddenly. "The core. I can feel it." Ahead of them, the gas clouds parted to reveal something massive. It was not a planet or a ship. It was darkness itself, given shape. A sphere of absolute black that seemed to swallow light. And it was hungry. "All ships, focus fire on that thing," Dongwu ordered. 100 weapons fired at once. The energy disappeared into the darkness, without effect. The sphere began to move toward them. "It is not working," Hana said. "We cannot hurt it from out here." Jian moved toward the airlock. What are you doing? Teho demanded. What I was made to do. Jian looked back at him. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Thank you, Teho. Thank you for waking me. Thank you for giving me a purpose one last time. You cannot do this alone. I will not be alone. Jian smiled. I carry every human who ever lived inside me. Every moment of courage. Every act of love. Every refusal to surrender. That is what I am. I am not one being. I am all of you, concentrated into a single point. He touched Teho's shoulder. Tell them, he said. Tell humans what happened here. Tell them that when the darkness came, they faced it, and they won. Tell humans. The airlock opened, and Jian stepped out into space. He flew toward the sphere of darkness, his body burning with light. The shadow creatures tried to stop him, but they burned when they touched him. He passed through them like a comet, leaving trails of fire behind. The hollow spoke, and its voice shook the very fabric of space. You cannot destroy me, it said. I am eternal. I am infinite. I will consume you, and then I will consume everything you ever loved. Jian reached the edge of the sphere. You may be eternal, he said, but I am human. And humans have one gift you will never understand. He plunged into the darkness. We know how to sacrifice. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light exploded from the center of the sphere. Pure, brilliant, impossible light that spread outward in all directions. It touched the shadow creatures and they screamed and dissolved. It touched the gas clouds and they began to glow. The sphere cracked. Great fissures of light spread across its surface like veins. And then it shattered. Teho shielded his eyes as the light washed over the ship. When he could see again, the grief of suns was transforming. The cold, dead nebula was lighting up with newborn stars, hundreds of them, thousands of them, igniting from the energy Jian had released. Where darkness had ruled for millions of years, light now blazed. But Jian was gone. Teho stared at the place where he had disappeared and felt tears running down his face. Beside him, Hana pointed at the screen. Look, she whispered. Among the newborn stars, small points of crystal were drifting outward in all directions. Millions of them, like seeds scattered by the wind. Each one carried a faint glow, a tiny fragment of the light that had destroyed the hollow. He is not gone, Hana said. He is spreading. Those fragments will drift to other worlds, other planets. And if another darkness ever rises, if another species ever needs protection, he will be there. The fleet began to pull back, leaving the blazing nebula behind. They had come expecting to die. Instead, they had witnessed a birth. The darkness was defeated, and the light was just beginning to spread. 1 year had passed since the Battle of the Grief of Suns. Teho stood at the window of his apartment in New Seoul, watching ships rise into the morning sky. The city had been rebuilt, stronger and more beautiful than before. The scars of the Valeth attack were still visible in some places, but new buildings grew around them like flowers pushing through cracked stone. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected. The Valeth hegemony had collapsed within months of the Hollow's destruction. Without the darkness controlling their leaders, the elder races found themselves lost and confused. Some tried to maintain their old power, but it was like trying to hold water in broken hands. The oppressed species they had ruled for millennia were no longer willing to obey. Earth had become something new. Ambassadors came from 100 worlds, seeking alliance, seeking guidance, seeking to understand the species that had produced Jian. Humans found themselves in a position they had never imagined. Not rulers, not conquerors, but leaders of a free coalition of peoples. It was strange. It was wonderful. It was terrifying. Teho's communication device buzzed. He looked at the message and smiled. Half an hour later, he arrived at a building near the old dig site at Mount Baekdu. Hana was waiting for him outside, her hair gray now at the temples, her face lined with the stress of the past year. She had been appointed Chief Science Advisor to the new Galactic Council. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I wanted you to see this before we make the announcement." They walked inside together. The building had been constructed around the original tomb where Jian had slept. It was part museum, part memorial, part research facility. "We have been studying the fragments," Hana explained, as they walked down a long corridor. "The ones that drifted away from the grief of suns. We have tracked over 3 million of them. They are spreading across the galaxy, landing on habitable worlds." "Landing?" Taeho asked. "Not just drifting? No. They are choosing their destinations. Each fragment carries a tiny piece of Jian's consciousness. They are looking for worlds that might need protection someday. They are planting themselves like seeds." They entered a large circular room. In the center stood a pillar of crystal, and inside the crystal floated a single fragment of Jian. It was no larger than a human fist, glowing with soft inner light. "This one returned," Hana said. "It came back to Earth 3 months ago. We have been studying it ever since." Taeho approached the crystal and looked at the fragment inside. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. "Is he aware?" Taeho asked. "Is Jian still in there somewhere?" "Not exactly. The personality, the individual who walked and talked with us, that is gone. But something remains. A potential. A promise." Hana touched the crystal gently. "Crystal, if Earth ever faces another threat like the Hollow, this fragment will grow. It will become a new guardian. Not the same as Jian, but born from him." Taeho felt tears threatening to spill from his eyes. He really did think of everything, did he not? I think he knew this would happen from the moment he woke up. He was not just fighting for us. He was ensuring that we would always have protection. They stood in silence for a long moment. Outside, the sound of children laughing drifted through the windows. A school group was visiting the memorial, learning about the guardian who had saved their world. "Have you heard from Mireille?" Hana asked. Taeho nodded. "She sent a message last week. She is on the far side of the galaxy now, following the fragments. She found a world where one had landed. The local species had just achieved space travel. They were terrified and excited all at once." "What did she tell them?" "The truth. She told them that the stars can be dark and dangerous. She told them about the Hollow and what it did. And she told them that they were not alone, that if they ever needed help, they just had to ask." Hana smiled. "That is good. That is exactly what Jian would have wanted." They left the building and walked through the memorial garden that surrounded it. At the center stood a statue of Jian, carved from white stone. He was depicted not as a warrior or a god, but as a man, his hand extended in greeting, his face kind. Children ran past the statue without stopping, their laughter filling the air. They did not understand yet what it represented. They only knew that it was a part of their world, as natural as the mountains or the sky. Old Sunho sat on a bench nearby, his eyes half closed against the morning sun. He was 90 now, thin and fragile, but his mind was still sharp. "I used to wonder," he said as Taeho and Hana approached, "if the old stories were just fantasies, wishes made by people who felt small and afraid. Now I know the truth. The stories were memories. Memories of what we could be when we have no other choice." Taeho sat beside him. "Do you think we deserved it? To be saved?" Taeho. Sunho laughed, a dry, crackling sound. "Deserve has nothing to do with it. We exist. We survive. We try to be better than we were yesterday. That is all any species can do. Jian did not save us because we earned it. He saved us because that is what guardians do." A young woman approached them. She wore the uniform of the new Galactic Exploration Corps and carried herself with quiet confidence. "Director Kang," she said to Taeho, "your ship is ready." Taeho stood. Today he was leaving Earth again. The Council had asked him to visit some of the newly liberated worlds. to help them build governments that would serve their people instead of preying on them. It was difficult work, frustrating work, but important. He looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, among the stars, millions of crystal fragments drifted. Each one was a promise. Each one was a piece of Jian, scattered across the universe. "He is still protecting us," Teho said. "Even now, even gone," Hana nodded. "He always will be." Teho walked toward the transport ship that would take him to orbit. As he walked, he passed a group of children gathered around a teacher. "The Guardian was born from Earth itself," the teacher was saying. "He was made from the hope and courage of all humanity. And when he gave his life to save us, he did not truly die. He spread across the stars, so that wherever life exists, wherever people need protection, a piece of him will be waiting." A small boy raised his hand. "Will we ever see him again?" The teacher smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe we will become like him. Maybe one day, when another species is in trouble, humans will be the ones who come to help. That would be the best way to honor his memory." The child looked confused. "How do we do that?" "By being brave, by being kind, by never giving up, even when things seem impossible. That is what makes a guardian, not power or magic. Just the choice to stand between darkness and those who cannot protect themselves." Teho paused at the door of his transport and looked back at the memorial one last time. The statue of Jian stood silent and still, his hand forever extended. "Thank you," Teho thought. "For everything." And perhaps it was his imagination, but for just a moment, he thought he saw the statue smile. He turned and walked onto the ship. The doors closed behind him. Engines hummed to life. Teho was going back to the stars. There was work to do. Worlds to help. A galaxy to rebuild. Behind him, Earth turned slowly beneath the sun. The planet that had given birth to humanity. The planet that had created a guardian when its children needed one most. And deep beneath its surface, in the place where Jian had slept for thousands of years, something stirred. Not waking. Not yet. Just listening. Just watching. Waiting for the day it might be needed again. The stars burned bright in the endless dark. And for the first time in millions of years, they burned without fear. Because Earth protects its own. And now, it protects everyone.